A deafening warning alarm ripped through the cabin as the passenger jet lurched violently at 32,000 feet. Oxygen masks remained hidden, but fear spread faster than smoke. Inside the cockpit, both pilots had collapsed over their controls, leaving nearly 200 lives racing through the sky without anyone truly flying the aircraft. Passengers cried, children clung to their parents, and flight attendants fought to hide their panic. Then, from seat 18C, a quiet woman slowly rose. Her hands trembled, yet her eyes held a determination that surprised even herself. She pushed past frightened travelers and stepped into the silent cockpit. After one long breath, she pressed the radio button. "Mayday, this is Viper 7 requesting immediate military assistance." The words echoed across nearby frequencies. Two fighter jets instantly changed course. Their pilots exchanged stunned glances because that call sign belonged to someone declared finished years earlier. Why had it suddenly returned? And who was really flying the helpless airliner now? Before we begin, comment below and tell us where you're watching from today. Only 30 minutes earlier, the journey had felt completely ordinary. The aircraft cruised peacefully above endless clouds while passengers watched movies, chatted quietly, or simply slept through the flight. Nothing hinted that this routine trip would soon become an unforgettable fight for survival. Seated beside the window in 18C was a woman named Claire Donovan. She barely looked outside. Every vibration of the aircraft made her shoulders tense, and every engine sound pulled painful memories back into her mind. She wrapped both hands tightly around a paper cup of water, silently counting each breath to stay calm. A flight attendant stopped beside her with a warm smile. "Are you doing okay, ma'am?" Claire forced a small nod. "I'll be fine. I just don't enjoy flying." The answer sounded simple, but it hid years of heartbreak. Claire wasn't afraid of heights. She was afraid of what flying had once taken from her. She was traveling to testify at a government hearing she had avoided for years, unaware destiny had already chosen a far greater reason for her to board this flight. Long before she became just another passenger, Claire Donovan had been one of the military's most respected fighter pilots. Fellow aviators knew her by the call sign Viper 7, a name spoken with pride after countless dangerous missions where calm decisions and fearless flying brought everyone home alive. The cockpit wasn't simply where she worked, it was where she truly belonged. Everything changed during a classified nighttime training exercise nearly 5 years earlier. Without warning, faulty navigation data flooded her aircraft with false information. Trusting instruments that had silently failed, Claire followed the readings until 3 military jets crossed paths in seconds. The collision lit up the dark sky. Several pilots never returned. Although hidden technical failures caused the disaster, the investigation moved too quickly. Claire became the face of the tragedy. News reports condemned her. Former friends kept their distance. Her wings were taken away, her reputation destroyed, and her career ended overnight. Unable to escape the blame or forgive herself, Claire disappeared from aviation forever. Or at least, that's what the world believed, until this extraordinary flight changed everything. The peaceful silence inside the cockpit shattered without warning. Captain Daniel Brooks blinked twice as a wave of dizziness swept over him. The instruments blurred together, and his hands slipped weakly from the controls. Beside him, First Officer Mia Collins noticed something was terribly wrong. "Captain, are you all right?" she asked, reaching toward him. He never answered. His body collapsed forward. Mia immediately grabbed the radio, but before she could finish the emergency call, her own vision darkened. A sharp pain exploded through her head. She gasped for air, fought to stay awake, then slumped lifelessly against her seat. The cockpit fell silent. Only the autopilot kept the massive aircraft moving through the sky. Moments later, a flight attendant unlocked the cockpit door. The sight froze her in place. Both pilots were unconscious. Her trembling announcement echoed through the cabin. "If anyone has professional flight experience, please come to the front immediately." Panic erupted. People cried, prayed, and reached for loved ones. Claire remained seated, battling the ghosts of her past, until a frightened child whispered, "Mom, are we going to die?" Everything inside her changed. Claire's heartbeat pounded so hard it drowned out the screams around her. Every painful memory begged her to stay in her seat. If she touched another cockpit, she might relive the nightmare that had destroyed her life. But then she looked around. A father was holding his crying son, An elderly couple whispered prayers with trembling hands. A flight attendant stood frozen, tears filling her eyes as no one answered her desperate plea. Claire slowly stood. "I can help," she said quietly. The flight attendant hesitated. "Ma'am, this isn't the time for guesses. We need a qualified pilot." Claire met her eyes. "I flew military aircraft for 12 years. Get me to the cockpit." Seconds later, she rushed inside. Both pilots were barely breathing, their faces pale and motionless. The aircraft was still stable under autopilot, but fuel, time, and luck were running out. Her training returned almost instantly. She checked the flight displays, confirmed the controls, then pressed the emergency radio switch. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Viper 7 aboard civilian flight 482. Both pilots are incapacitated. I have assumed control. Request immediate military assistance." Dozens of miles away, 2 fighter jets intercepted the transmission. Inside their cockpits, silence replaced routine conversation. "Did she just say, Viper 7? The lead pilot's expression hardened. "Impossible. That call sign disappeared years ago." Within seconds, both fighters lit their afterburners and turned toward the helpless airliner. Unaware, they were racing toward a legend everyone believed had been lost forever. Claire held the control yoke with steady hands, but inside, a storm raged. Every flashing instrument reminded her of the night her career ended. Before fear could take over, a calm voice broke through the radio. "Viper 7, this is Guardian Command. We have your signal. Stay with us." Claire recognized the voice immediately. It belonged to General Marcus Hale, the senior officer who had overseen the investigation that ruined her life. "General," she whispered. "We'll discuss the past later," he replied. "Right now, your only mission is bringing those people home." Moments later, 2 fighter jets appeared outside the cockpit windows, sliding smoothly into formation beside the struggling airliner. Their presence transformed the lonely aircraft into one protected by guardians of the sky. As they guided her toward the nearest military runway, General Hale spoke again, his tone unusually personal. "Claire, we reopened the old case 6 months ago. The evidence proves the navigation system failed. The accident was never your fault." Her grip loosened. For years, she had carried unbearable guilt, believing innocent lives had been lost because of her decisions. Now, with one sentence, the weight began lifting from her shoulders. "You're still one of our finest pilots," the general continued. "Today, you're proving it." Claire looked at the glowing autopilot switch, took one deep breath, and pressed it. The aircraft responded instantly. For the first time in years, she was truly flying again. The massive airliner no longer felt like a machine. It felt like a living giant fighting against every movement Claire made. Every adjustment demanded absolute precision. One mistake could cost nearly 200 innocent lives. "Easy, small corrections," the fighter pilot instructed over the radio. "We're right beside you." Claire gently turned the controls, matching the escort jets as they guided her toward the emergency runway. Thick clouds gathered ahead, and within seconds the aircraft slammed into violent turbulence. The cabin erupted with terrified screams as luggage rattled overhead. "Hold her steady," General Hale shouted. Claire refused to panic. Years of combat training returned instinctively. She anticipated every jolt before it arrived, correcting each sudden drop with calm determination. Beside her, Captain Brooks slowly opened his eyes. "What happened?" he asked weakly. "You and your first officer collapsed," Claire answered without looking away from the instruments. "I have control." The captain studied her flawless handling, then smiled faintly. "Then keep flying." Those 3 words erased the final traces of doubt inside her. For the first time in years, Claire stopped fighting her past and started trusting herself again. "Viper 7, begin your descent now." The command echoed through Claire's headset as the runway came into view, a narrow strip stretching across the valley below. She eased the throttles back and carefully lowered the nose. The giant aircraft responded slowly, every movement carrying the weight of hundreds of lives. "Altitude is good," Captain Brooks said, his voice still weak. "Keep your descent smooth." Outside, the escort fighters peeled away one by one, leaving Claire alone for the final approach. There would be no one to save the aircraft now except the woman at the controls. "Landing gear down." She pulled the lever. A heavy mechanical rumble shook the fuselage before 3 green lights illuminated the panel. "Gear locked," Flap set. The jet slowed as the runway rushed closer. "You're perfectly lined up," General Hale encouraged. "Trust your training." Claire tightened her grip, ignoring the pounding of her heart. 50 feet. "Hold it." Now, the rear wheels kissed the runway with a firm but controlled touchdown. Cheers instantly erupted from the cabin, but Claire wasn't finished. She deployed reverse thrust, applied steady braking, and guided the aircraft down the center line until it rolled safely to a complete stop. Silence filled the cockpit. Then the radio came alive. "Viper 7, welcome home." The moment the aircraft stopped, the silence lasted only a heartbeat before the cabin exploded with emotion. Passengers burst into tears, embraced complete strangers, and applauded through trembling hands. Some simply sat frozen, unable to believe they were still alive. Outside, flashing emergency vehicles raced across the runway, surrounding the jet from every direction. Medical teams hurried into the cockpit, lifting Captain Brooks and First Officer Collins onto stretchers. Before leaving, Brooks turned toward Claire with grateful eyes. "I've flown for 30 years, he said softly. "Today you saved my crew, and every soul on this aircraft." Claire lowered her head, struggling to hold back tears. Moments later, General Marcus Hale climbed into the cockpit. Instead of offering a salute, he extended his hand. "You've carried a burden that never belonged to you," he said. "That ends today." Within days, investigators released newly uncovered evidence proving the tragic military accident had been caused by catastrophic navigation system failures, not pilot error. News outlets across the country replaced old accusations with a different headline. "The forgotten hero who saved 196 lives was innocent all along." A month after the emergency landing, Claire returned to the same airbase where fear had once nearly ended her life. This time she wasn't arriving in disgrace. Pilots, mechanics, rescue crews, and the passengers whose lives she had saved stood waiting on the runway, applauding as she stepped from a military transport. There were no cameras chasing scandal anymore, only people honoring courage. The government officially restored her rank, her flight wings, and every honor that had been taken from her. She was even offered the chance to return to active combat flying. Claire smiled respectfully and declined. "I've spent years proving I deserved another chance," she said. "Now I'd rather spend my life helping others believe in theirs." Soon afterward, she became an instructor, standing before young cadets who dreamed of touching the sky. Every lesson she taught carried more than flying skills. It carried resilience, responsibility, and hope. Before dismissing her first class, Claire looked toward the endless blue horizon. "Your greatest mistake," she said, "doesn't have to become your final destination. If you have the courage to rise again, even the sky will welcome you back." And for the first time in many years, she truly felt free.